Hey guys, I wanted to share something with you. Fair warning, I am biased. I'm a liberal, and I absolutely believe in liberal ideas and ideals. Not left wing. Now let's not get those two conflated or confused. I believe in the right that all people should be equal and free, limited government, and I believe in the Constitution. That's the definition of being liberal. I believe in capitalism and a free market. Also, the definition of a liberal. So, to defined that, but I have to share this with you. This guy just dropped a whole bunch of truth bombs in the Senate today because the Dems blocked our stimulus relief bill. So I wanted to go ahead and share something with you guys.
You know what the American people are thinking right now? They're thinking that the brain is an amazing organ. It starts working in a mother's womb, and it doesn't stop working until you get elected to Congress. You know what the American people are thinking right now, Mr. President? They're thinking that this country was founded by geniuses, but it's being run by a bunch of idiots. You know what the American people are thinking right now, Mr. President? They're thinking, why do the members of the United States Senate continue to double down on stupid? Now, this is not a Republican bill, Mr. Chairman. This is a bipartisan bill. We have spent hours and hours and hours negotiating these provisions.
Hold on, and just to let you guys know, this bill was created. Two members of the Republican Party and two members of the Democratic Party spent almost 4 days putting this bill together that would pass both sides. And in the House, of course, it passed flying colors, bipartisan, and everything worked out real well. And then 47 to 47 got denied here in the Senate. Now, mind you, this bill has all sorts of goodies in it, and it does have faults. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a perfect bill. It's not the best bill I've ever seen, but it isn't the worst bill I've ever seen by far. And we'll continue this.
With our Democratic friends, this is not a slush fund. This is a bill to help people and businesses in America. This bill is going to increase unemployment insurance. This bill is going to send $1,200 to every man and woman in America, taxpayers who make less than $75,000 a year, and $500 for each of their children.
Now, here's the key here. When he says taxpayers, that's anyone who made over $2,500 in 2018, and they get the full benefit if they made under $75,000. Anyone who made over $75,000 loses $100 for every $1,000 they made over, all the way up to $99,000. Anyone who made $100,000 a year is not going to get this at all. And it's basically the easiest way they could think of to give the money to the most affected people. Now, granted, someone who didn't make any money in 2018 isn't going to get this unless they were claimed as a dependent. Then they get $500, not $1,200, right? So that is kind of a flaw in my opinion, but it's not the biggest flaw I've ever seen, right? Like, that's not stupid crazy, like, oh my god, like, you didn't make any money in 2018, you were claimed as a dependent, so you're not getting the full $1,200, you're getting $5. I mean, that's not that terrible, right? But it continues, though. This continues.
This bill is going to help every small business in this country. It's not a bailout. it provides up to $350 billion for small businesses for the next 8 weeks to keep going. And if they don't lay anybody off, the loans are forgivable.
Now, this is great. Like, because I was worried when they said that they were going to give loans to small businesses to help them out. Like, it freaked me out a little bit. I was like, they can't even afford to keep their lights on. You're going to, charge them interest on a loan? And, like, seriously? Really? You're going to try and make the banks a little bit of money during this crisis? I'm all for, helping out the person, but, like, socialism and capitalism don't really mix together like that. It was worrisome. But the idea that if these businesses use the money to keep their employees paid, keep them on the payroll, and they don't lay anybody off, then they get the loans forgiven. It's basically a grant, right? That's amazing. Like that, I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. Like, why? That's whoever thought of that was a genius, right? But no, we can't have that, right? We can't have $350 billion to keep people getting paid during this coronavirus nonsense. Let's continue, because it does keep going.
Now, we have some businesses in this country that are bigger than 500 employees.
Yeah, a lot of
this
them.
bill has a provision to help them too.
Really?
As well. In the America I was raised in growing your business and becoming as large as possible was something we aspired to. This bill does not create a slush fund for the Treasury Secretary. It provides $75 billion to help some of our industries hardest hit in a collateralized loan, not a bailout, and then provides another $425 billion to the Federal Reserve.
All right, so for those of you that didn't catch that, for the big business that is getting bailed out in this, they're collateralizing a loan. They're not offering forgiveness on these loans. And for those of you that don't understand what a collateralized loan is, it's basically like when you go buy a car, or if you purchase a house. Those loans are collateralized because if you don't pay your house, your car note, or your mortgage, they will repossess your car, or they will foreclose on your house and the bank owns it. So that's exactly what the government's doing to these businesses. So businesses like Boeing and American Airlines and these businesses that were hugely affected by this. I mean, not small time. This is not small potatoes how they were affected. This was major break your bank kind of catastrophe for them, right? And if they don't pay back the loans, then the government gets a piece of your business. So basically getting in at this record-breaking Wall Street economy, the government gets to ensure that they get their money back, because even if the business doesn't pay back the loan, their shares are going to be worth so much more if and when the economy recovers. If the economy doesn't recover, then none of this matters anyway. The dollar's not going to be worth anything. Your air company's not going to be worth anything. The government's going to fall into shambles. Like, none of this matters if the economy doesn't recover. But if the economy does recover, then the government has a piece of businesses that are going to be doing well, right? So they get their money back no matter how you look at it. So it's not taxpayer money that we're just giving to businesses. It's taxpayer money that they're going to pay back to save those businesses. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. It's way better than we did the banks, because when we bailed the banks out, they didn't even have to pay it back. When we bailed out the car companies, now most of the car companies did pay it back. So it's like that point is kind of moot, right? But, this is a way better bailout plan than the last one, right? But it continues.
Under Section 13.3 of the Federal Reserve Act, which the Federal Reserve will make available to all businesses.
Ooh,
including those that don't qualify as a small business.
Oh. So anyone
And it's not a gift.
Nope.
We can negotiate warrants. We can negotiate stock options. We can take a piece of their company in stock.
Exactly what I was explaining.
Mr. President, I don't understand it. I get politics. I've been around it my whole life. But there comes a time
and his phone goes
when
off.
we have to stop thinking about the next election and start thinking about the next generation. What are we going to leave to our children if we allow this economy to crash? And it is
and that's where I'm going to cut it off. Basically, he's absolutely right. If the economy crashes, like it's done anyway, right? So this, last-ditch effort to try and mitigate the economy getting destroyed from an act of God. Like no one could have expected that the coronavirus was going to come and wipe out 5% of the population. Like no one could have expected that. Like, come on. Except for maybe China could have warned us, but that like they did warn South Korea. They even aided and helped South Korea in their testing. That's why South Korea did so freaking well, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world had no clue. China downplayed it. Who listened to what China was saying? At first it was not even spreadable human to human until they had like 20,000 cases, and then they're like, oh well, I guess maybe it is, and then they were downplaying their cases so much, and then once it hit 50, 60,000 cases, it was already here. There's nothing we could do about it. But South Korea got a heads up. They got protein analysis from China. They got different ideas on what can and cannot work for mitigating, and I mean, we got none of that, So just as a recap, this was hilarious. I absolutely loved the fact that this guy didn't even know who he was until today. I've seen him speak a few times about the impeachment stuff, but it wasn't anything crazy. It was everything all the other Republicans were saying, right? I was like, whatever. But this was great, and you need to see this, because you need to see exactly who you're represented by. And if you haven't already checked out, if you're a Democrat, you should check out who you're represented by. If you're a Republican, you should check who you're represented by. And if you're a crazy middle-of-the-road liberal like I am, who vote both sides, then you should know who you're voting for when it comes down to it. Don't listen to what your neighbor says. Don't listen to what the media says. Listen to what they say out of their own mouths and make your decision yourself. Because that's the most important thing here, is to make your decision yourself. Don't allow someone else to take your rights, your freedoms, and your votes away because you're not willing to put in the effort to keep your rights. That's what I advocate for. That's what I love, you guys. You guys are amazing. And I will see you next time.